everyone. Welcome to WCU Talks. My name is Joan and I'm your host. And today I have my roommate Kayla with me.
Hi.
So, today's episode, we're going to be talking about mental health. And I know this can be like some like triggering to some people, but it's just going to be like like maybe like a big sister talk. And just like share our experiences with maybe mental health, like some tips that like maybe you can give regarding mental health. And it's just going to be a chill like episode. So, yeah, let's just get started. Um, so, how would you define mental health, Kayla? Like, what would you say about mental health?
I would say mental health and mental wellness is any state of um, physical, social, mental well being. And then obviously, when people think of like mental health struggles and challenges, they think of anything that kind of impedes one's ability to maybe function
Yeah,
regularly or
yeah,
what would be, I guess, considered socially normal.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I definitely think that you pinpointed everything that I thought was mental health. Like, I don't know. I just feel like mental health can be like a very like vague like topic, and like not a lot of people like talk about it, or it's like
Right,
not very taken seriously. Um,
right.
so like I just want to like maybe take like 5 minutes, maybe like tell us if you have any experiences with like bad mental health or like even good, like because there's not always bad things that comes with mental health. It could be like positive things as well. So
Right.
like you could, maybe give some tips and talk about your experience with that.
Yeah. So I've had kind of a back and forth relationship with mental health for the last several years. Um, and for a long time, my mental health was really good. And I was, socially, mentally happy, all of that good stuff. A couple years ago, I started to really struggle with anxiety and depression. And kind of like you mentioned, it's not something that people really talk about a whole lot. So it wasn't something I ever really talked about. I felt, everyone around me was doing great. So why wasn't I doing great as
Yeah.
well? So I just never really brought it up or talked about it. Um, and then over the course of the last several months, I was struggling more with it. I actually went to a mental health treatment facility for my mental health. I went there for my anxiety and depression. And I was also diagnosed with bipolar 1. Um, which is a mood disorder. And I was in treatment for about 3 months, but ever since coming back, I've had really stable mental health.
That's amazing.
I've been very happy. I've been, more motivated for, kind of like the day to day living, tasks and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's always a back and forth. There's always good days. There's always bad days. Um, but yeah, so that's a little bit about my experience with it.
Awesome. Yeah, like when she left, like it was so sad, like because it's only like the three of us living here. Um, and I could like honestly tell like last semester how she wasn't doing like too hot, like she wasn't really going to classes, and like I felt like really bad. Like I could just tell that like she wasn't in the right state.
Yeah,
Like once she told us that she was leaving, I was honestly like so happy for her. Like, and I'm just glad that like you're back and better than ever because honestly, like I don't know how you would have been if you didn't go and you
yeah,
came back from like winter break and you were still the same and just like not the happy person that you usually are.
yeah,
So that's amazing.
yeah. I'm definitely very happy that I went.
Yeah,
Definitely very, very grateful.
yeah,
And, also really glad to have, you and, our other roommate to be so like supportive of me and just kind of, you guys are part of my social support system, which is like super important in mental health. So
yeah,
I am
I agree.
very happy to have you guys.
Yeah. I definitely think having a strong support system is very important, especially when you are dealing with anxiety and depression, because, dealing with that alone is just not fun and like it could,
Mm-mm.
make you even more depressed. And like
Right.
for me, I feel like I I don't really like talking about my problems. Like I just don't like, you know, trauma dumping on people. Like or just like, making people feel uncomfortable, because there are a lot of people out there where they just like don't know how to take it, and
Right.
they just feel like too overwhelmed, which I totally understand. Like I personally don't like when people like trauma dump on me either, because I just like don't know what to say, and I just like feel like I'm sitting there and like I'm just nodding my head, but like the other person telling me is like expecting me to like give them a response, but like I don't want to give them like a wrong response and make them feel even
Right.
worse than they already do.
Right.
So I feel like there's always like a battle with that as well. Um, and like I definitely feel like my mental health right now is just not the best either. Like growing up, like I was always like a happy person. And I was always outgoing. Like all my friends would always be like, "Oh my God, like Joan's always so outgoing. She's so fun, whatever." But like sometimes like that can just be an act. Like I wasn't always happy. Like I wasn't always outgoing. Like I had my bad days and my good days, but it's sometimes like there's situations where like you have to just pretend that you're happy all the time, because like you don't want to show the bad side of your life. And my parents are very traditional Korean parents, and I come from a Christian background. And when I do tell them like I'm struggling, they're kind of just like, "Oh, like why? Like you're always happy. Like you're always smiling. What do you mean you're upset?" And like hearing that from like your parents, it like kind of like sucks, because like you want them to be like, "Oh, like what's wrong? Like do you want to talk about it?" But they kind of just
Mhm.
like brush it under the rug. Um and I feel like talking to your parents is like really, it's not a good feeling, like telling your parents, "Oh, like I'm not happy" and stuff, but like they are primarily like your biggest supporters, and like they should be like
Mhm.
people that like you feel most comfortable with and vulnerable with. But if you do like tell them, "Oh, I'm not happy," and then they're just like, "No, like you are, like you're always happy," like it's kind of like, I don't know,
It's
draining in a sense.
invalidating. It's
Yeah,
invalidating.
yeah,
You
yep,
know,
that's the
it
word,
makes you
invalidating. Yeah,
it makes you feel like the problems that you have aren't actually, real,
yeah,
and just that you're making something up in your head, and, that everyone else seems to know you better than you know yourself.
yeah, mhm,
And I mean, my parents were kind of similar in the way that when I told them I was struggling, my mom tried to understand but couldn't really understand. And my dad is just very much the, oh, well, suck it up and get over it.
yep,
Or, it's in your head, or, whatever.
yeah,
Um, which, I mean, like you, like it makes it very hard to tell them, when you are struggling. And that, like, I didn't tell them for the longest time that I was having, you know, issues, and that I was, depressed, or that I was anxious, or that I was, in need of more help. Like, I just didn't feel comfortable telling them, because in the past I had only ever really gotten shut down,
yeah.
or I wasn't really getting support from them. So it just kind of teaches you that, those aren't the people that you go to for that kind of thing, if they're not really super supportive in the
That's so
past.
sad. Like that's just really sad, I feel like, because I feel like your parents should be the ones, trying to make you better and like feel loved and stuff. But like if you don't feel validated by your own parents, I just feel like that's a different type of like hurt in a
Yeah.
way. Um and like that's why ever since they said that to me, I was just like, you know what, like they're not the type of people that I can just go with or go
Right.
to, and like I just don't feel comfortable like talking my feelings like around them. And then my
Mhm.
parents are like, because they are Christian, they're like, "Oh, just like pray about it, like you'll be fine, like pray to God." And I'm like, I don't know if like God can fix my mental issues. Like that's like a totally different thing. Like I get
Yeah.
where you're coming from, but like God can't fix my depression or my sadness or whatever I'm feeling. Like
Right.
I just feel like they just have this strong like mindset of like mental health like doesn't exist, and like that's honestly a problem. Like I have a lot of Asian friends as well who say the same thing, like, "Oh yeah, my parents like they don't believe in mental health, like they just tell me to get over it or like just forget about it," which is like that's so sad. Like
Yeah.
it's not okay.
And a lot
So,
of the older generations, kind of grew up on the, don't ask, don't tell
yes.
kind of mindset.
Yeah,
And if they were ever struggling, it was never acceptable to talk about it. And
yes.
I feel like our generation is the first generation that's really being open about our struggles, and open about mental health, and also just accepting that, needing help isn't a bad thing, and
Yeah.
that it doesn't make you weak for
Yeah.
having anxiety or depression,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of, kind of like I relate to, like, I have a lot of friends whose parents don't believe in mental health or don't understand it, or, aren't willing to help their kids get the help they need. Like, I have friends whose parents simply like won't even let them get a therapist,
Yeah.
because they just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of, it's just sad that, like, some people aren't getting the help that they need because their parents just don't believe that it's a
Yeah.
valid issue,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I agree. And like going back to what you said, like I feel like a lot of people aren't getting the treatment that they need because they're, embarrassed and they don't want to seem weak. But I just feel like that's that's just like a stereotype. Like I feel like you should, like if you're struggling, you should get help. Like it's not a sign of weakness. Like it's
Yeah.
honestly making you look stronger and, making
Right.
you seem like a better person because you're not just, sleeping on your depression or anxiety or whatever you're dealing with, but like you're actually going out of your comfort zone to try to be a better person, try to cure yourself.
Right.
Which is why like I was so proud of you when you decided to like go get treatment because it's like it's not a bad thing. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I will say, the stigma around going and getting treatment, like, it's very real and it's very prevalent. And, like, it was a very, very hard thing for
Yeah.
me to decide to do. And it was hard to accept. And, like, even now, like, there is still some parts of me that, I don't want people to know
Yeah.
that I went to treatment, or that, I don't want people to know, like, my diagnoses. Like, I don't want people to know that I'm, oh, it's not just, haha, I'm depressed, but, like, no, like, I have major depressive disorder,
Yeah.
like, there's something more serious about that. And, a lot of people aren't as, we're still not so open about it that everyone can just be very forthcoming with what they're
Yeah.
struggling with. And
Yes.
I feel like, when I made the decision to go away to treatment, I was so anxious and worried about what other people were going to say
Yeah.
and what other people were going to think about me,
Yeah.
and even now, like, I'm, 3 months out of treatment, and I still am, nervous about what family members are going to say, what friends are going to say. Um, and just, what does that change the way they perceive me, that, like, oh, I couldn't handle it on my own, like, I had to go away to get help, when
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, we're not meant to do this on our own. We're not meant to do it, without professional help. We're not meant to do it without, medication even. Like, they say, you have to put in the work, and you have to be willing to, maybe try going on meds and things like that. And if you are willing to put in that effort, you
Yeah.
can see a huge, huge change in your mental health, like I did. Like, I never would have imagined that I would feel as good as I feel.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm very, very grateful that I did go away to treatment. But, I understand that it is a hard thing. And, some people, they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they just, don't have the support. And I'm very lucky that I did have all of those things, but it's just like, it's a shame that not everyone has access to the same kind of help,
Yeah.
that I had.
Right. Yeah. And like I even like had someone that I dated before, and he was like kind of like shy to like talk about him going to therapy and like I guess he just had this like stigma of like, oh, like men shouldn't do therapy, like that toxic masculinity type mindset. And
Mhm.
he just had this, whole mindset of like, oh, like I just feel embarrassed like telling her like I don't want to show her that like I'm weak for like getting help and like, having therapy sessions every week. But like when he told me, I was honestly like praising him. I was like, honestly, good for you. Like there's not a lot of like guys out there like you who do ask for help and it's nice that like you put that aside and decided to, I actually want to be better and get help and like not be
Right.
embarrassed by it. Like
Right.
it's not something that you should be embarrassed of. Like it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a male or whatever. Like if you need help, like you need help. Like you can't, have that mindset of like, oh, like I'm just like embarrassed, like I'm shy, like, I'm like I don't want to seem weak. Like I
Yeah.
just I feel like there's just a lot of people that think like that and it's just not okay,
It's not healthy, and it builds up,
Yeah.
the the problems don't just go away because
Yeah,
you ignore them, and eventually you come to a point where, you know, if you had gotten help sooner, maybe things wouldn't have been as bad,
exactly.
and a lot of people are just too embarrassed to, get the help that they need when they need it. And then
Yeah,
you see people that are, like really, really struggling and don't have any form of support. And
yeah.
it's a shame.
It is. It is. And, like, I'm honestly guilty of it too. Like, I would love to go to therapy. I think everyone needs therapy. But, like, I am, like, shy and, like, I'm embarrassed. And, like, especially, like, asking my mom, like, oh, I think I want to try therapy. Like, I'm just scared of her reaction and, like, her just, like, invalidating, like, how I'm feeling. So, like, it's just, like, a everyday battle that I do struggle with. But
Right.
eventually I'm going to do it because I feel like it's good. Like I'm not trying to go to therapy because like I want to like, jump out a window, but like it's also good to just like, talk to someone other than like your friends or family, like getting an
Yeah.
outsider's perspective on life,
Right.
how I'm feeling.
Right. And
So I
having
think
that objective perspective,
yeah.
is really helpful. Sometimes it's hard, to get opinions on situations when people are involved in those situations, but
Yeah.
to have a professional be on the outside and kind of give you that objective like point of view, it can
Mhm.
be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Especially if like you're talking to your friends and your family about it, like they're obviously gonna be biased and like just tell you what you want to hear. But I feel like with therapists, like because they don't really like know you on a deeper connection or deeper level, like they can't really give you a biased like perspective and like they'll just straight up tell you like how it is. And I feel like that's what's needed for most people. Like I don't
Right.
wanna hear from my friends all the time, like, oh, you're doing amazing, like you're literally the best. Like I want someone to be like, no, like you have issues, like you need to fix this. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
So,
I agree. And it's definitely, being in therapy, it is like I look forward to it.
yeah,
I look forward to my therapy sessions, and it's just someone else that I get to talk to about things. And there's also no judgment, you know, and that's something that's hard to come by
yes,
in, I feel like, our society today.
yes,
And so to have someone that I can talk to who's not going to judge me for anything that I tell her or him, it's
it's amazing.
definitely like a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, as we're coming to a close, I just want to ask you, like, is there one thing that you want to, let someone know who is dealing with mental health and like how they can, do better? Like maybe like one tip.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I learned in therapy and in mental health treatment, um, that I've been telling everyone is that action precedes motivation. And I think the biggest misconception that we have is that, oh, well, I'm not motivated to do that, so I'm not going to go do that right now. Or
Yeah,
I'm not motivated for schoolwork. I'm not motivated to go to work. I'm not motivated to clean my room or do this or do that. And one of the biggest things they teach you is that action always, always, always comes first and the motivation follows. So if you are struggling to get out of bed, if you are struggling to clean your room or do that schoolwork or go to work or anything like that, take that first step. Whether, you sit up in bed, you don't get
yeah,
up yet, you sit up, you pick up one thing and put it away in your room. You start the car to go to work, you open your laptop, like just that first thing, and just take it in slow steps and the motivation comes afterwards.
yeah,
And, even if that's, I'm not motivated to find a therapist, just open your laptop and look on a website like Psychology Today. And that's where they have, therapists in your area, and just look through them. You don't have to commit to anyone. You don't have to message anyone, but just look through them and just start to get a sense of what you might be interested in.
yeah.
That's the biggest advice that I could give anyone that's struggling with mental health, is that action precedes motivation 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, and she always tells me that, and honestly, like I can vouch for it. It definitely works. Like I'm the laziest person ever, and if I could like live in my bed, I will. But ever since like she came back from like her treatment, like she's been always telling us that, like me and my roommate, and I honestly feel like it does help. Like I would, maybe see a freaking like book on my desk, and I'd be like, oh, like I'll open it and I'll like read one page, and then another second, like I'd be doing the dishes. Another second, like I'd be wanting to take a shower. Like it's just that whole cycle of like once you start doing something, like I'm just like the like I don't know, the serotonin you get from like doing something, like you just keep
Hmm.
wanting to do it and you just like
Hmm.
don't want to sit back down and like relax. Like I just want to keep,
Right.
doing more things. So
Keep being productive. Yeah.
yeah. And like it just like distracts me too. So I feel like it's a win-win for
Hmm.
both. So,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
but yes, thank you, Kayla, so much for joining me on this episode.
Of
It was nice
course.
having you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week. Bye.